Professor Wergeles here. We just did our first commit. You'll notice that I'm working on the master branch. This is important for explorations and challenges. You should not work on the master branch because you will not be doing that in the industry. So we need to make a new branch here. So if I do a get status, you'll see we pushed everything up to master. If I do a get branch -a to show all the branches, we only have a master branch. So I'm going to do a get checkout with the current branch and the current commit, and I'm going to make a new branch called dev. This is what you should do for your challenges. So now we switch to the dev branch. We will make all of our edits here. We can even create additional branches. So right now we're working on the front end. We're going to add material icons and we're going to update the template. So we can even make branches for each element that we're working on. That would actually be the best scenario for your exploration. So you have your dev branch, and you have your each individual branches for each feature that you're adding. So let's say right now we're going to check out another one. Let's say this is going to be our front end branch. And while we're doing front end, we're going to update our material icons. We update that back to dev, and then we update dev to master. So we can use proper programming practices on our lectures. That way you make sure you use them on the challenges and explorations. So now if we want to add material icons, we can do the same as updating this index file. Remember, this is a single page app, so all the components are going to be placed here in the app root. So let's say I want to use material icons. I actually have a link here in lecture 10. You can come here and grab this link, and I can actually add this right here to the index file. Now, again, this is not the best way to do things, but I just want to show you how simple Angular can be. Angular doesn't need to be complicated. Everything gets converted back to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we can keep things simple at first. Then once you get more familiar with Angular, we can start doing more technical techniques. So here I'm adding material icons, and let's say I want to update the front end to use those material icons. So if I come back over here to the front end, I already have this add span. What I can do is inside this span, I can use an icon. So I'm going to use the I tag and put a material icon class. And if you go to material icons, whatever's in the I tag needs to match the material icon. So I'll keep the span, I'll keep the I tag here. And then whatever's in the middle will be that icon. So I'm going to do add lowercase, which then should put a plus symbol. So you'll see here the code's still running. I keep the code running here, and then I have the second terminal to do my get commands. That way, when I update the code, it's still running here in the background. Check this out. Here's the plus, but I want this plus to be next to the add button. So we can fix that up. But before we do, let's go ahead and add a commit. So we added the icon, it works. We can go ahead and commit the code. So if I do a get status, you'll see I updated a few files. I've already added them to the stage, so it's keeping track of them. So I can just do a get commit -a-m this time. -a is for all, -m is for message. For each commit, you always have to add a message. And we could do adding material icons with CSS link in index file. We'll update to proper way here soon. We just want to get a quick way. If I do a get status, now we're working on the front end branch. We're not working mainly on the master branch. And we can add other icons as well. Let's say we want to add another icon. We can add some custom CSS, so that way it's next to each other and this page looks better. So first, let me add another icon. So if I come back to the code, let's say I have this to-do element here. And when I'm printing out each to-do element, after I do this interpolation here, which is just like I print out the name, I can add an icon afterwards. So here I can add an icon, let's say with class material icons. That's what you need to do. And then whatever's in the I tag needs to match whatever that icon is. So let's say I do delete, should be like a little trash can. And I can do an on click here. So let's say they click this to delete icon. We can call the delete item method, and we're going to pass in the current to do element. So you'll see here's the to do for loop, and it's going to add an on click on every icon. And then whenever they click this one, it's going to pass over the to do. If I come back to the compile version, you'll see it doesn't find delete icon, so it crashes. And this is what's nice about Angular. It tells you at compile time whether the code works or not. With JavaScript, I could write this here without having the function, and it'll compile. I run it in the browser, and then it crashes, and I don't know why. Here, I get a compile error, which is nice. It helps me write solid code. So if I come back over here to the TypeScript file, which is like our controller, I can add another method. Okay, so let me add a delete item function. So I'll do delete item. And then let's say I'm passing over the to do element. We're not going to make this very complicated. I'm just going to have a for loop. It can be just like a regular for loop. I can say let I equal to 0. I is less than or equal to. We can say the this dot to do array dot length I plus plus. I guess normally you would see less than, and then less than, and you do length minus 1. I guess this is probably more what you would see. Both will work. And then we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to say if the to do string is equal to this dot to do array at index I, then we're going to go ahead and take it, this to do array, and we're going to splice. That's a regular JavaScript function. We're going to splice I, and we're only going to splice one element. And then we can do a console log. We deleted item, and then we can even include this here, this dot to do array I. Now, the problem with this, and this will work, but the problem with this is if multiple to do elements have the same string, it's going to erase all of them. So you could have a more sophisticated way. Maybe it deletes the first one and then breaks. Maybe you have an ID and it has to match a corresponding ID. Notice how this doesn't work here. We need to specify type. So I need to specify this as a string. When this comes over, it needs to be a string. And this helps me write more solid code. So first, let's see if it works. If it works, then we'll go ahead and add up some styles. So here, if I do a refresh, you're not going to see anything. If I do test, hit add, you'll see it does add the little trash can. So let me do test 2, test 3. If I delete test 2, you'll see it deleted the middle item. If I delete or test 1, it's gone. And you'll see that it did delete them properly. If I refresh, they're all gone. And then you'll see that it was deleting them properly. So now let's go ahead and fix up some CSS. Let's make this look better. So if I come over here, I actually have some CSS here in the lecture 10. So we don't have to write all this from scratch. So we can add an import to the Google Fonts. You'll see padding. You'll see some more form code. And we'll basically add all of this CSS here. Okay, just to save a little bit of time. So we have our own custom font. You'll see padding is 0, so we're overriding browser default. The form, the max width is 30 EM. Margin is 4 EM auto. So we add a little bit more margin than before. We're doing position relative, background, changing the color, doing some padding, overflow hidden, changing some colors here, the font family on that H1. It's still primary, so you'll see it's still bold. But now when I refresh, look how it's in this nice background. Looks a little bit nicer. So you'll see I have inside the form, the class data, I put a little margin on the top. For the form, the class data, all the list items, I have a background, border left, give it a little spacing, padding, font family, I use the same one. You'll see on each icon, I float right. So it's going to be floated on the right. I also changed the cursor to pointer on each icon so you know you can click it. And then on each input group, we change the background color, border radius 50%, so make it more like a circle. Width, height 5 EM, padding, color, position absolute, right 13, top 68. That took me a while to figure that out. Then you'll see I changed the icon size. I edit the form control, add a little bit of height, change the font family. And then whenever there's a focus, I update this box shadow. Okay, so let's take a look. So when I click, you'll see there's the box shadow. And now if I add in test, click add, you'll see the button's much bigger now. And this has space. You'll see I have a border left. If I come back up here, you'll see I have the border left, 4 pixels, solid orange on each list item. So if I do test 2, click add, test 3, you'll see there's a little space. Click add, it works. If I click delete, deletes the first one. If I delete the second one, it deletes. And this works properly. If I delete the last one, if I click on the last one, it's not deleting. It says delete test item 3, but it's not updating the display. If I try to just add one, click delete, it's not deleting it. So something's going on here. We need to check this out. Let me add a second one and then try to delete the second one. I don't get anything. If I click the first one, it works, but the second one does not. So let's check this out. Is there a bug here? Let me go back to the less than equal to and get rid of the -1. And let's see if this works here. So I had 2 elements, try to delete the last one, and now this one works. You'll see it says delete item undefined though. Okay, which should not be. This one also says delete item undefined. So let me try this again. Test 2. We'll add test 3. Delete the middle one. It says it deletes test 3. If I delete the last one, it's undefined. So we got a little bit of an issue there with what we're console logging. That's because we splice it and then it's going to update the next element. So we should really have this console log at the beginning before we splice the array, because that element will change. Let's try this again. Refresh, test 2, test 3, delete the last one. It worked. Delete this one, works. Delete this one, works. So now it's working. The index should go out of bounds here on this element. We need to look at this splice method. So if I do TypeScript splice, you'll see it's the index at which to start changing the array. An integer indicating the number of old array elements to remove. If how many is 0, no elements are removed. Okay, so you'll see it splice a second array. You'll see orange, mango, water, banana, sugar. No elements are removed because this was specified at 0. We specified it at 1. So you'll see I want to move the third element, 0, 1, 2, 3. So it moves banana. And then it shifts all the other elements. So if I wanted to remove the last element, it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the length is 0. The length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's go ahead and print this out here. That normally it's either less than or equal to array length -1 or just less than array dot length. So if we get rid of the -1, and delete the last element, it should work. So remember to use proper programming techniques. Even though I do a less than or equal to here, it's actually going to iterate out of the array. And if I delete the last one, it still delete the last one, and it still was able to handle the length. The length is equal to 2, but it found the element. So it still worked, but you will want to use proper programming here. So make sure you do the correct for loop. And it's good to do a little bit of bug searching there. Do some prints, see what's going on, find the bug and fix it. So this should work. The styles look nice. We can do another commit. So if I come back, do a git status. We modified quite a few files. So I'm going to do a git commit -a-m. And what do? We added delete icon, added custom CSS, added delete on click, and we added delete item function in TypeScript. Okay, so if I do a git status, you'll see it's clean. And once you get to a good point, you can always merge back up. So if I do a git checkout with dev, you'll see it's the old version. So I can do a git merge with our front end. You'll see it merges the code. And I can always do a git checkout back to master. It's the old one. I can do a git merge with dev. Now everything's up to date. And I can always push up to the repo. Okay, we got more code to come. Stick with Professor Wergeles, and we'll see you in the next video.